Starting off with some powers here. I got 315 on the bar. This might be a warm-up set depending on how fast it moves. If it is a warm-up set, it's going to be my last warm-up set. Going for 2.0 meters per second peak velocity for every rep today. Felt really good. 2.15, 2.28. I'm going to call that a warm-up set. I'll go up to 325. All right, 325. This will be a working set. .27, 2.15. I'll go up a little bit again. Okay, going up to 330. Didn't really want to take a huge jump here in weight because my legs still are a little bit fatigued. They kind of have that just like heavy, like my thighs, you know what I mean? Like heavy thighs kind of feeling. Especially I sprinted yesterday. So I really want to move this thing well. I don't really want to be like fighting to get to 2.0 meters per second. So if I can stay above there, I'll be pretty happy with that. .27, 2.17, so still pretty good there. I think you've answered this before, but how many hours do you sleep per night? When are you usually asleep by? Love the content like usual. Oh, probably since like the summer, since May. Basically, my daughter goes down somewhere between 8, 8:15, 8:30 at the latest. But basically, once she's down, my wife and I are getting ready for bed because both of us have to be up early most days of the week. Sometimes I have 5 a.m. clients, sometimes 6, sometimes 7. So if I'm getting up at like 4, if I have my alarm set for 4, I've gotten so much better like getting into a routine where I can like facilitate good quality sleep. So I'm in bed by 9:15 at the latest. And I've done a pretty good job of getting myself to fall asleep by like 9:30. So hours of sleep, 9:30 to 4:30. To say I get up at 4:30, was that 7 hours of sleep? But I wake up, I have to go pee once in the middle of the night. I wake up a little bit, roll over. So I'm probably getting 5.5 to 6 quality hours of sleep. That'd be my guess. All right, keeping 330 on the bar. I want to move it really well again. .22, 2.20. Hell yeah, 2.31, 2.22. Best rep of the day was that first one at 335. Doing these Blaine broad jumps in my garage today so I don't put my hand on some glass window and break it again. What are your thoughts on a 10 or more day split instead of a standard 7-day split? I think it works well. The way I like to think about it is regardless of how many like training days in the microcycle you have, you just perform as many days consecutively as you can or as you want. And then when you take a rest day, just pick up on your next training day, pick up your next training day on the following day that you feel ready to train again. So if that means you do 5 training days in 8 days, cool. If it means you do 5 training days in 6 days, cool. I think it all works really well. I don't think you necessarily have to follow like a calendar, a 7-day, weekly 7-day calendar schedule for your training. But logistically, that just works for a lot of people because they can actually follow a good schedule that works with their family life, their work schedule, their school schedule, their practice schedule, all that kind of stuff. So if all you care about is training and you don't have like a lot of other things that's going to interfere with your training, yeah, I think a 10 or more day split works, or just like getting off the regular calendar 7-day split works. What were my untrained starting lift numbers to squat, deadlift, and bench and overhead press? I honestly don't know. So I started training, not really. I started doing some sort of strength training when I was like in middle school. I wouldn't count that. And that was just like the program was basically the Nautilus machines for 2 sets of 10. It was at a basketball like summer camp thing. It was 2 days a week, like 2 sets of 10 on every machine. You just performed a set at every machine, and then you went through every machine again. So I wouldn't call that training. It's hard to like say because I really started a true strength and conditioning program at 18 when I was in college. So I guess I'll give you those numbers. After my first like 6 months of training in college as a freshman, I guess we'll go with those numbers. Yeah, I think my clean was 140 kilograms, which is 308. I think my squat was 465 or 475. Bench was 330 maybe. No, 305. It was less than 315. My deadlift, we didn't deadlift in college. I really didn't start deadlifting until after college. And then overhead press was probably in the low 200s, 200, 205, probably. That's a hard one to say because you don't know like when you started training, what number do you want to use the numbers you had when you like your first day in the weight room when you're totally untrained and it's not reliable, or after your first 3 months, 6 months of training where you're still like getting those newbie gains. You just never know where to start. Okay, moving on to the box squats here, guys. I got 9 total sets. I'm doing waves of 3. So I'm building up for 3 sets, coming back down, building up for 3 sets, coming back down, building up for 3 sets again. First set here is going to be at 445. I got the hundreds on here again. Safety bar is 65, so we got 100, 200, 265, plus 90, 355, plus 90, 445. So this will be set 1 here. All right, going up 15 pounds, going to 460. 0.55, 0.55. Okay, 490 here. Gonna hit a top single, strip some weight off, go back to a set of 3. When choosing exercise selection, what are your thoughts on using a clean or a snatch pull versus a regular deadlift? I wouldn't put those 2 different exercises in the same classification. So if I'm using a snatch, I guess they're both heavy pulls, but one of them's more an assistance exercise for the clean or the snatch. The other is just like a heavy deadlift. I guess I don't know. I would never like choose between the 2 if that makes sense. I guess unless you're competing in Olympic weightlifting, you're probably going to prioritize the clean pull during certain portions of the year versus other periods of the year. But I think Olympic weightlifters should deadlift. Do you recommend changing lift variations between blocks, or can one leave the selections largely the same? You can definitely use the same exercises for a long period of time. Variation for most, God, it's hard to say. There is value in changing variation from like a learning perspective, a motor unit recruitment perspective, improving skill acquisition perspective. No, you can use the same exercises for a long time. And I really would not be afraid of any sort of overuse injury unless you're like really pushing the intensity for like an extended period of time, like 8+ weeks. But if you're going to do a block of 4 weeks and then a block of 4 weeks and you use the same exercise, the exact same exercise variations, you're totally fine to do that. You could go even longer than that. All right, strip the weight back down to 460. So this is going to be a triple, doing the wave loading. So I hit that top single at 490, stripped it back to my second set of a double, that double that I did at 460. Going to hit a triple here and then titrate my way back up, going 3, 2, 1. And now I'll go back up to 490 for a double. Do you feel like there's any value in top sets of 10s and 8s, followed by back off sets of similar to how you program 1s and 6s? Do you find value in building that kind of work capacity and repeatability? Absolutely. The only thing with like a top set of 10 and then a back off set of higher rep ranges is that's going to be very fatiguing. That's going to be a lot harder to recover from, but there's definitely value in that. I have videos in the past where I've talked about like the value of sets of 10, the value of like AMRAP sets, the value of high reps. So check those videos out. But yeah, there's definitely a ton of value in building work capacity and repeatability with those higher rep sets. So you just have to remember that that's going to be the cost of fatigue is going to be a lot higher than if you do like a set of 5, like a top set of 5 and then a back off set of 8. Like a top set of 10 and then a back off set of 12 to 15. That's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. Or maybe you're thinking you do a top set of 10 and then you do some back off sets of like 5 to 6 with even lower weight than your top set of 10, which I think there's value in doing something like that too. Okay, 490 for 2 here. Do I agree with Mark Rippetoe that the setup for a clean should be the same as a deadlift? I think his 4-step setup for the deadlift is excellent, but it seems like that hip position is too high for a proper clean. Yeah, I don't agree with Mark Rippetoe for the clean, that the setup for the clean should be the same as a deadlift. However, he is right, though, that when you see people perform heavy cleans and heavy snatches, their hips do rise a little bit sooner than the bar and the shoulders, and that's because it does put you in a more advantageous position to pull directly from the floor. But I think his hip position that he advocates for is too high. It just puts you in a less advantageous position for when the bar crosses the knee to have a good brush point, good contact without humping the bar too far forward. Because if your hips are so far up, you're really gonna bang that bar. So no, I disagree with him that the hip position should be as high as what he advocates for. But he is right when he says that nobody actually pulls with that low of a hip position when the weight gets heavy. So yeah, hopefully that answers it. Dropping the weight down to 490, gonna hit a triple there, and I'm gonna titrate my way back up for a triple, a double, and a single again. Any recommendations for fitness influencers that focus on older, middle-aged adults that still want to lift hard? Already watched Gray Steel. I don't know who Gray Steel is, but there's two guys that come to mind for this. It'd be Dan John. I really like Dan John. He's pretty active on YouTube and on social media. Then the other guy is Steve Shaw. I think he goes by, is it Massive Iron on YouTube? Those would be the two guys that come to mind. But I mean, there's plenty of other guys on YouTube that just like put out good content. It doesn't really matter like what demographic you fit in. Like Alan Thrall, Atlas Power Shrugged, I think is great. Bromley is great. There's so many to name. Dane Miller from Garage Strength, he's great. There's a lot of guys on YouTube that I think put out good stuff. GVS puts out good stuff, but if you're like looking for middle-aged, older guys, the two that really come to mind is Dan John and Steve Shaw. 0.47, pretty decent set. Okay, last thing of the day coming up is Nordic hamstring curls, so I'll get those done. I'll probably only show you 1 or 2 sets. I'll find another question to answer too. See if I can get a couple full reps again today. Yep, coming back. Oh. Oh. Do you think doing a sprint plus conditioning day the day before lower body day like you do impacts your lower body strength? Yeah, I'm sure on some days. It's probably pretty negligible though, but it's just something you deal with. You got to figure out a way to get, if you're going to train concurrently and you're going to train sprinting, jumping, plyos, heavy strength training, Olympic lifts, heavy barbell work, conditioning, if you're going to train all that stuff, you're going to have to fit it in somehow. So everything's going to affect everything else in some fashion. So it's probably, the impact is probably pretty negligible. And if I want to prioritize one quality over another, I'll just prioritize it. But right now I'm doing the combine stuff. So I care more about the sprinting and the jumping, the body weight explosive stuff more than anything else. So I'm going to prioritize that. So if that impacts my lifting, my strength for the following day, that's fine for right now. When you train with velocity measurements, what value do you look at most to adjust the training, average velocity or maximum velocity? I talk about this all the time. If I'm doing like a ballistic lift, like an Olympic lift, I'm looking at peak velocity. If I'm training with a non-ballistic movement, I'm going to do average velocity. I have videos on this in the past, but I kind of want to start looking at peak velocity for things like squat, bench press, and dead. But I haven't really seen much work on that, so... But I'll probably look at peak velocity for the non-dynamic, non-ballistic exercises at some point. Maybe I'll do that this winter. Gonna grab a 2.5, see if I can do a full rep. Yep. Good. Okay, that's it for the day, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Quick shout out for Barbell Apparel. Got a shirt on, got their shorts on. Check them out in the description below if you want some gear.